Hey everyone, OneSpit here with another battle report. So this is my 200th battle report that's uploaded. I was actually trying to think about getting a bigger game going, but it just didn't work out. So we actually dropped 100 points because there's a tournament coming up pretty soon, and I think everybody's going to be preparing for it. So it's 2,400 points, pitch battle against some Dark Elves. Really interesting list. My opponent put this together using pencil and paper right before the game, trying to make a competitive list without all the normal bells and whistles. So starting on the left, he's got Corsairs. They are frenzied, uh, two-hand two-hand weapons each. So 3 attacks from the men in the front row. So that's going to be pretty tough. Got a unit of Blackguard. I know the champion has Crimson Death. I don't believe the unit has a standard. If they do, I don't remember it. There's a Dreadlord and Black Dragon. He's got Ogre Blade Armor of Destiny. A level 2 Lore of Shadow with Tome of Furion. A unit of Warriors. Another unit of Warriors. Some Coldwind Riders in between them. That master he's the battle standard bearer, has regen, and then just a halberd. And again, if there's anything fancy on the champions here, it just didn't really come into play. I don't know what it is. It may not be anything. Then there's a level 2 sorceress on the right, Lore of Metal with a scroll. So you notice, there's none of the normal bells and whistles. There's no hydras, there's no sacrificial daggers, no ring of Hotek, no crown of command, and yet still a pretty tough list. And a well-painted army. So on my far left, Harpies. I've got my Horde of Gore, 2-hand weapons each. I think there's 40 of them. I threw my War Gore in there, so he's got a 2-up armor save, and the banner that gives everybody in the unit +1 strength. So if I get Primal Fury off on those guys, that just makes them real tough. I've got a 30-man unit of Gore with my Great Bray Shaman. So he's got Fencer's Blades, which gives him an extra attack and weapon skill 10. So it's kind of offensive and defensive. He's a little bit harder to wound in combat. He has a Jagged Dagger, which is an arcane item that basically says any wound he does in combat gives him an extra power die that he can use whenever he wants. So it's kind of risky because you have to throw your level 4 into combat, but at toughness 5, weapon skill 10, I'm hoping he can survive that and just try it out. It seems like a nice aggressive way to build him. So then I've got my unit of Bestigor. They do have the standard of discipline, and my general's in there, so it's a leadership 10 bubble. He's got the Sword of Anti-Heroes, 4-up ward, and the other Trickster Shard. On the other side, I've got a Gorgon, another unit of 30 Gore, Tuskor Chariot, and a unit of Harpies. So you can see I changed my list a little bit. I took out the Razor Gores, took out the Senegore, took out a Tuskor Chariot, upgraded my Spellcaster from 2 to level 4, and beefed up the 2 smaller Gore units so they just can stick around a little bit more. So I get turn 1, I move up as you can see. My thinking here with the score is I like to park him in front of that woods, and so if his units come into me, he shouldn't be steadfast. And as long as he can't gang up on me with 2 or 3 units in the charge, I think that might work. Nothing really happened in Magic Phase. Really, with Lore of Beasts, I think everything I have is a buff, and so I'm not sure even. I didn't really need Magic. There was nothing I could really do to him, so it wasn't worth any kind of miscasts. So in his turn, you can see he flies his general over. He's going to lay that breath weapon template down on my Gore Horde. Otherwise, he moves up not nearly as aggressively as I thought he might. So especially those Coldwind Knights. I mean, obviously he wants to get the charge. He's got me outdistanced by a little bit, but I do have that Gorgon that has movement 7 that can zoom over there. After the breath weapon, looks like he killed 8, which I'll take. And we go to Beastmen turn 2. So first off, I tried to get my Bestigors into his cold ones, and they failed. I don't remember what they needed. I think it's probably a 9. And I tried to get my Gore Horde into his unit of warriors, and I think they only needed. I think it was a 6 or a 7. I mean, it's not a done deal by any means, but I was kind of expecting to get there. And had I done it, I think I would have beaten the Warriors, and it would have given me an overrun into either his level 2 or the flank of his cold ones. And failing it just absolutely bites, because now he can dual charge with his general, with the Warriors. Maybe, I parked my Harpies on the left, trying to block his Blackguard and his Corsairs. It was just really rough. Now, the mistake I made with those Harpies is that when the Blackguard charge in, they can overrun and still get into the front of the horde. I tried to position it so they wouldn't, and it was just a fail. And the problem was I was trying to do too much with them because I was trying to block the Corsairs as well. And what's funny about that is as soon as the Blackguard declare a charge and I scrunch up, it frees the way for the Corsairs to have a free charge into my flank. Now, I didn't think about that when I parked my Harpies, and he didn't think about that on his turn. But it was an epic fail in trying to use redirectors. Um, yeah, this made me mad. Darn it! I needed the best scores to get in there. And here's everything on the right. I'm not really being too. I'm not trying to be timid with my Gorgon and everything. It's just that I need the right matchup there. I would love to get the Gorgon in against his warriors. I didn't need him parked out there to where his Cold Knights could get a free charge into him because I think they would just tear him up. So Dark Elf turn 2 on the right, he charges my Harpies. His cold ones, his knights actually back up. I mean, wow. I mean, I'm not saying it's not smart, but it's frustrating. I need to get in combat there. If you look on the left, yeah, so his warriors tried to charge in and they failed, and that was very much appreciated. General came in the rear. His Blackguard charged the Harpies, and that's when I realized that it was just a fail. So that when they beat the Harpies, they're going to get a free charge into my Gore. And luckily, like you can see now that I scrunched up the Harpies, how the Corsairs have a free charge into the flank, and just neither one of us saw it. So yeah, here's on the right hand side. I'm sacrificing Harpies left and right. So all the different angles. Yeah, so during the magic phase, I actually save 6 dice because I know he's going to cast Pit of Shades. He casts it, it goes. I throw my dice at it, fail. Spell goes through. It doesn't scatter, direct hit, and then I fail my initiative test. So not crazy bad luck, but a little bit bad luck. Darn it. So Gorgon's off the table. Harpies are off the table. Now this didn't surprise me. When I saw that the Blackguard were going to come into my horde, I kind of knew that he was going to win combat, and there's a real good chance I wouldn't be steadfast. Well, actually I could have been steadfast maybe, but I got Primal Fury. I'm hitting on 4s rerollable, wounding on 3s, and I only killed 6 Blackguard. And I was thinking, even if I lose combat, and if I lose my Battle Standard Bearer and my Horde, at least weaken this Blackguard unit so that somebody else has a chance of taking them out. And only killing 6 was just really frustrating. So that was painful, by the way. His general didn't even try to catch him. So the Blackguard, we were both rolling 2d6. So, and I didn't get away, which again he had the odds on that. But oh, very, very frustrating. Left flank is totally his. The only good news is that his Corsairs are kind of far away, but that's small consolation. So to add insult to injury, we go to Beastmen turn 3. My Gore fail their charge into the warriors on the right. My best Gore fail their charge into the cold ones, and my Great Brave Shamans they charged as warriors who fled, and then they failed that charge. So, and I think they even redirected to his somewhere else. Regardless, they failed the charge. I think they redirected to his level 2 and then just failed that. So just, ugh. I mean, these failed charges are setting me up to where he can pick and choose his charges. So, I guess kudos to him for being far enough back that it makes failed charges likely. Yeah, there's another shot of it. During the magic phase, I get transformation off because I really think that these guys, there's a chance he could charge his general in there and maybe charge him with something else. And I just like that if he does that, I think this Mountain, because I always do the beefed up version if I can. So the Mountain Chimera, I think he has pretty good odds of putting the hurt on anything. So I think it makes it more difficult for him just to charge his general in there. And I like the thought of him having to use his magic phase to get rid of it, and or giving me some charges with on my turn. So he opts not to charge in there. He just flies his general behind, which I actually think was pretty smart. It just gives him options where he can charge where he needs to. He charges his warriors and his cold ones into my Bestigor, and I'm thinking this very well could be the game. If he breaks them, I mean, I'm out. I would be out my Horde with my BSB and then my Bestigors. Those are really the only 2 units I have that can really put the hurt on things. I'm out my Gorgon. I'd be out my general. Yeah, so this is kind of coming down to it right here. There on the left, he reforms his Blackguard. He moves his Corsairs up. If you look at the top, the warriors that fled my Great British Shaman's charge, um, they fled. I think if memory serves, I charged with my Great British Shaman's unit and with my Bestigors. They fled from the Bestigors, and that's when the Bestigors redirected to his Colden Knights and failed. That's why they're running at that angle. So this is the one I'm nervous about. The only good news is the uh, the way he moved it, and we talked about, to what extent do you split the frontage between the two units, and to what extent do you try to maximize the models in combat. My vote is that for the most part, you just split it equal to the warriors and the cold ones. He felt that you probably should maximize units, which would put a few more warriors in combat. Regardless, the way it works out is there's only three in the front rank of the cold ones that are in combat. Now, one's a master, one's a champion. They're pretty tough, and the last two on the left are not in combat. So anyway, there's that. And then all of his warriors are in combat. And afterwards, he only did 5 wounds. And I'm not sure how or why that played out the way it did. I know that um, my general certainly helped putting the hurt on his cold ones. He still has his battle standard bearer. The problem with his warriors was that he couldn't get past wounding on 5s and then me saving on 5s. So yeah, that was absolutely huge. I think I actually won combat. I took everybody that could attack warriors. I put on the warriors. I was re-rolling to hit, wounding on 2s, and just did a ton of wounds. And then my general took care. My general and then whatever 3 other attacks were able to do some work on the cold ones. So actually won combat. Absolutely surprised. I don't know what the math hammer is, but that's huge because now I still have a chance in the game. So Beastman turn 4, starting at the right, my chariot charged his level 2, she fled, my chariot redirected into the warriors, my gore charged the warriors. I charged my Great Brave Shaman, a la Mountain Chimera, out at his level 2, and he fled. And I thought certainly because I can fly, I could catch her, but he rolled like a 12. So then, instead of having to fail charge being out in the open, I decide just to redirect into his Corsairs. And this is going to be really dicey, because during the magic phase, he'll almost certainly dispel my Mountain Chimera. But the way we play it is, if during my magic phase I don't have power dice, I can't cast a spell. And so instead of saying the magic phase just ends, we say, you can dispel it if you want, but if you do, I get all my dice back. So what he did is, he did dispel it, and then I cast at least one other spell, and then I got the transformation spell off again. And that the Mountain Chimera is kind of like having the Doom Bull on the table. That thing just tears shit up. Just absolutely. Wow. He was steadfast. I think he was outside of his general's 18-inch leadership bubble, but he's still stuck. And I think he might have done 1 wound on me even. So yeah, just tore them up, and they lost their frenzy, which is nice. And then on the right, yeah, we easily beat him through combat res. The what was lucky for me was we actually ran him down too, because the Gore and the Chariot had to chase his spearmen, and so I was pretty confident that I'd run them down. My Bestigor had to pursue his cold ones, and I think there's only a couple left. So they weren't going to rally, but then again, I don't think they were going to get off the board either. He had 3 dice, I only had 2 dice, and I was able to run him down, so that was huge. So it ends up as you can see it. I have 1 unit of Gore that is really vulnerable. His Blackguard and his General could come into him, and I think my plan there is really, if he charges at the Blackguard, just to flee, and then if he charges at the General, um, the General will catch him, and I'll just have to give up those points, because I think he's going to get those points anyway. So during the magic phase, remember when I said I got another spell off, and then I cast the transformation spell again? Well, the other spell was the Curse of Honor here on his Blackguard. So if they charge or march, they've got to take dangerous terrain tests failing on a 1 or a 2. So yeah, they decide to charge my general's unit, the Bestigors, and that was really scary for me, especially if he brings his general in there as well. Well, when he took his dangerous terrain, he had 15 models and he lost 8 to the dangerous terrain tests. He should have lost 5. So, I mean, I guess if we look at it that way, the extra 3 isn't a big deal, but he lost half his unit to dangerous terrain. More importantly, he lost his champion, who had the Crimson Death, who was his best chance of killing my general. So that was absolutely huge. Uh, and then his general decides to go into the rear of this other unit, and um, that surprised me. What I was worried about was his general. What he should have done, and I think he would have done if it was a more competitive game, is he should have taken his Blackguard and his general into the same unit, whether it's the Gore or the Bestigor. Just take them both in there. Um, Now, the thing the Bestigor have going for them is they have that special rule that every time they capture a banner in combat, they get a plus. It's kind of like an extra war banner. And they have the Warriors, the Cold Ones, the Battle Standard Bearer. So they have 3+3 combat res going into this fight. He rallies both of these units, which was a real bummer. I was hoping at least one to go off the table. This one does not rally, but she's still on the table. During the magic phase, he gets rid of my transformation spell. This makes my Great Brave Shaman vulnerable. But again, his guys aren't frenzied. I'm weapon skill 10, which, by the way, I think I forgot about that. And I'm toughness 5. So he has a chance to survive. After combat, yeah, his Blackguard they did a few wounds on me, but there just weren't enough left of them to do a whole lot. Two of my general and those Bestigors killed him to a man. I now have +4 combat res with the Bestigors. The Gore sacrificed their champion and then did a reform to face his general. So that's going to be a long slog. His general's, he has the dragon, the thunder stomp, and I've got steadfast. Yeah, there we go. 4 banners on the Bestigor. I've actually keep on forgetting about that rule because it just never seems to matter that much. And this game really showed me what the Bestigor can do when they go around winning combats. So Beastmen turn 5. I had reformed the Bestigor so they could charge around the Great Brave Shaman. I meant to reform the Brave Shaman to move him over, and I just forgot. So whatever. Otherwise, the board is as you can see. I think the Gore tried to charge the Corsairs too, and they just failed. Yeah, so it looks like that. I don't like that my Great Brave Shaman is sitting on 2 wounds, but there's nothing you can do about that. I love that my Bestigor come in, my general make way, and with all that combat res, I'm pretty confident that I'm going to beat those guys. And if I do, my plan is, if my Great Brave Shaman's alive, to pursue with the Great Brave Shaman and just reform with the Bestigor. So during the magic phase, I get Curse of Honor here off on his general, which is very kind of a meaningless spell. But the problem is I got it with Irresistible Force, and that was just really stupid. It wasn't unlucky; it was stupid. Basically, there's only 2 spells I can cast because in a previous miscast I lost 2 magic levels. So the only spells I have are Curse of Honor here, and the transformation. And on this one, anyway, I rolled 10 power dice, and he has 5 dispel dice. And so what I was thinking was, I'm going to have to throw 5 dice at 2 spells just to get one of them through. And the question I forgot to ask myself is it worth a miscast? Because this certainly isn't. And it miscast, blew up large. It blew up my my Great Brave Shaman. Did one remaining wound. Did large template. It killed all of his Corsairs except for 1. And then, amazingly, didn't really do much damage to my Bestigor. It was actually really, really weird. So after combat, we easily kill the last Corsair. We now have 5 banners. That's +5 combat res on these Bestigor. Kind of funny. Yeah, his general wins combat. I'm steadfast. And then we go to his turn. There's really not much moving. He has his warriors on the board. He has 2 mages. He's trying to stay away from combat, getting his mages close enough to cast spells. Otherwise, we just go to fighting. It does that. I'm still steadfast by 1, luckily. And I decide just to come into the flank with this. I've got a charge, a flank, and a banner, plus 5 extra combat res. and technically a rank right now. So that's actually 9 combat res that I'm starting with. And so the dilemma was, I don't have any champions available. Do I accept a challenge with my general? If I do, I will automatically win combat. What I'd eventually decide is just to make way with my general and let him have to decide where to allocate his attacks. So what happens is he allocates all his Dreadlord's attacks on my Beast Lord, and he's got high strength, and so he's not rerolling to hit, luckily, because we're not in the first round of combat. But he does get a couple through. I've got a 4-up ward. He does 1 wound to me, so I'm sitting on 1 wound. His dragon goes at my Beast Lord. This is before I can even attack, and he gets 2 wounds, and then I take my ward saves, and I fail one of them. My Beast Lord dies, which just really bites. But then my Bestigor get to go, and that's what, 10 or 11 attacks on him, and this just broke my heart. They did a ton of wounds, and his armor save, they didn't do a ton of wounds. They did 6 wounds. His armor save goes up to a 6-up, and he makes 2 of them. So I only do 4 wounds on him instead of 5. 5 kills the dragon, which doesn't give him Thunderstomp, which makes it if he breaks, he only does 2 dice instead of 3 dice. But he does. Ugh. Yeah, there's my general dead. After combat, he Thunderstomped the gore, but I have 1 gore remaining. I have 4 wounds on his dragon. He gets away. Oh, it just broke my heart. It was so close to being just such an epic turnaround victory. During his magic phase, he kills a chariot just to get a few more points. Game ends like that. What a nail biter at the end. It came down to it. I had so many points in banners. It was fairly close. He ended up winning by 300, I think. It was just breaking my heart. If I just could have got that general, that would have been, if nothing else, at least a draw. So yeah, but it was a really fun game, especially the way it turned around at the end. I really think his choice not to take his Blackguard and his general into the same unit was driven by the fact that he felt that he was winning by so much that it just didn't matter, and he wanted to make the game interesting. And that one thing did make the game interesting because it gave me a chance to get back in it. If he had dual charged something, that would have been tough. So, but anyway, that was it. Hope you enjoyed it.